Good evening, students. I was discussing the advantages of self-pollination in the last class. So we will continue now the disadvantages of self-pollination. What are the disadvantages of self-pollination? Self-pollination, no new traits are introduced in self-pollination. No new traits or characters are introduced in self-pollination. Self-pollination do not induce any genetic variation. As the pollen grains of the same plant are involved in pollination here, no new characters are introduced in the offspring which are produced, and no genetic variations. As self-pollen is involved, no genetic variations found in the offspring. We do not induce any genetic variations in offsprings. Disease resistance gradually decreases with time. Disease resistant property which was there in the parental plant in which you have self or self-pollinated, after successive generation that property, what you call it, decreases. See, continued self-pollination lead to inbreeding depression. Continued self-pollination can lead to inbreeding depression. It can lead to weakening of plants. Weakening of plants. Self-pollination is unable to remove the defects. What kind of defects are there in the parental plant? These defects will not be removed. It is unable to remove defects from plants. The yield of the plant gradually decreases. The yield of the plant, when we do continuously self-pollination, yield of plants gradually decreases with time. Due to decreased vigor and vitality. So the yield of the plant or yield of the crop or yield of the plant gradually decreases with time due to decrease in vigor and vitality. So these are some of the disadvantages of self-pollination. So we prefer cross pollination because of these reasons. So moving on to the next concept now, cross pollination. Cross pollination is called as allogamy. It is usually called as allogamy. The transfer of pollen grain from anther, transfer of pollen grain from anther of one flower to the stigma of other flower, stigma of other. The transfer of pollen grain from anther, this is anther, to the stigma of other flower or another flower is known as cross pollination. Here you have one geitonogamy, another one xenogamy. Actually, xenogamy is a true cross pollination. It is the best type of this allogamy. Geitonogamy, usually we consider it as similar to what we call self pollination. Okay, what is geitonogamy? We will learn. Gitnos means neighbor, gamos means marriage. Gitnos means neighbor, Greek term. Gitnos means neighbor, gamos means marriage. Elos means different, gamos means marriage. So here, what is geitonogamy? One mark definition can be asked, very important. Listen. The transfer of pollen grain from anther, transfer of pollen grain from anther to the stigma of other flower on the same plant. Another flower of the same plant. Transfer of pollen grain from anther to the stigma of another flower born on the same plant. This we call it as geitonogamy. See, the flowers, whatever the number of flowers which are produced in a single plant, usually will have similar genetic makeup. The pollen grains are genetically similar. The pollen grains are genetically similar. Pollen grains are genetically similar. So even though the pollen grain of one flower is transferred to the stigma of another flower, the pollen grains which are produced in the same plant will be genetically similar. So it is ecologically or functionally cross-pollination. Because the two different flowers are involved, not the same flower. Same flower means it is self-pollination, you know that, autogamy. So here, the pollen grains are transferred from anther to the stigma of another flower born on the same plant. So here, ecologically or functionally it is cross-pollination, but genetically self-pollination. Genetically it is self-pollination because the pollen grain which are produced in these different flowers born on the same plant will have similar genetic makeup, similar genetic characters. That's why it is genetically self-pollination, whereas ecological and functionally it is cross-pollination. So many geneticists and plant breeder consider this heterogamy as a kind of self-pollination only. Kind of self-pollination. The advantages and disadvantages of heterogamy are similar to the self-pollination or autogamy what we have discussed. The advantages and disadvantages of heterogamy are similar to the advantages and disadvantages of self-pollination. So it is involving two different flowers. So it is ecologically or functionally cross-pollination, but as all the flowers are having same kind of genetic makeup, usually of similar color and possess the similar kind of pollen grains. Okay, so here, so it is genetically self-pollination. So it is not going to induce much of the genetic variation. So it is not a true cross-pollination. Plant breeders and geneticists consider this heterogamy as a self-pollination only, not cross-pollination. Now moving on to the true cross-pollination type, that is xenogamy. Xenogamy, it is a true cross-pollination. Xenos means stranger, gamos means marriage. So what is this xenogamy? See, the transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of the flower transfer of pollen grain from anther to the stigma of the flower on different plant, not same plant, different plant of the same species. So here the pollen grains which are transferred from anther to the stigma are genetically dissimilar. Genetically, the pollen grains which are used here genetically dissimilar. That's why it is a true cross-pollination. Xenogamy is true cross-pollination. So the transfer of pollen grain from anther to the stigma of flower on different plant, another plant, not same plant, different plant of the same species is known as xenogamy. So to transfer the pollen grains from anther, when anther mature it dehisces and release the pollen grain. These pollen grains have to be carried to the stigma of a flower mainly by agents, external agents which can carry these pollen grain. So what are the agencies involved in what you call cross-pollination. See, cross-pollination is mainly dependent on different kind of agents. In self-pollination, it is not usually dependent on external agent because the anther and stigma are very close to each other. When anther derives on force, that can release the pollen grain and it can fall on the stigma within the same flower. But here, this xenogamy is dependent on external agent. To affect the cross-pollination, it has to be dependent on these external agents. Agents of cross-pollination or agencies of cross-pollination. We have mainly two types of agent, one biotic agent, living agent, and another one abiotic agent, that is non-living agents. Abiotic agent, non-living agent are mainly wind and water. Wind and water are abiotic agents for cross-pollination. Biotic agent, living organism, particularly animals, are the agent for cross-pollination. So, in case of animals, can be insects, birds, bats, snails, etc. These are all different types of animals which are involved in transfer of pollen grain from one flower to another flower on another plant, affecting cross-pollination. So, when a living organism, when animal is involved in what we call pollination, it is a biotic agent. Maximum number of plants are being pollinated by biotic agent. Most of the plants are pollinated by biotic agent, living agent, mainly animal, different kind of animal. Only few plants are pollinated by abiotic agent, such as wind or water. So most of the plants which are carrying out the cross pollination, okay, they are being carried by what we call the animals. And definitely small proportion of the plants in which the pollination is mediated by the external agents like wind or water. Now, whenever there is pollination by wind or water, whenever the pollination by abiotic factor, non-living factor, wind or water, chances are less. Wind, most of the time directionless. Wind cannot blow always in only one direction. It is directionless. See, the plant is on one side. The receptive stigma of a flower is on one side. If wind is in opposite side, means pollen grains will not reach the stigma. Similarly, even water. The water body is there, pond, lake is there, okay, river is there. If the water current flow in different direction other than the position of that flower in the plant, then pollen grain may not reach the stigma, will not affect into pollination. So, these chance of pollination is very less. Chances are very less. As wind movement is directionless, water movement is also not always towards the stigma, right? So the chances of pollination are very less. So to compensate this uncertainty, so it is a chance factor here, a luck factor. Right kind of pollen grain reaching on the stigma by the agency like wind or water is just a chance factor or luck factor. Okay, so to compensate this uncertainty and associated loss of pollen grains, flowers will produce enormous number of pollen grains, large number of pollen grains. So flowers will produce enormous number of pollen grains in comparison to the number of ovules involved in pollination. So pollen grain produced, thousands, millions of pollen grains are produced as compared to the number of ovules. The number of the ovules produced will be fewer. So that chances of what you call pollination and fertilization can be increased. So moving on to the types of pollination, depending upon the agent involved in pollination. Depending upon the agent involved in pollination, we have different types of pollination. So first one, that is anemophily or wind pollination. You remember the definition of ketonogamy and xenogamy. One mark, very important. So in this anemophily or wind pollination, they will ask for 2 mark. What are the characteristics of anemophilous flowers or wind pollinated plants, wind pollinated flowers? Listen. Anemophily, anemos means wind. Anemos means wind. Philus means loving. pollination of flowers by wind or air. Pollination of flowers by wind or air is known as anemophily. It is a abiotic agent. It is a abiotic agent. Okay. So in abiotic agent, out of the two, wind as well as water, wind pollination is common with respect to the pollination by water. That remember. Among the abiotic agent, the pollination which is carried out is mainly by wind is more common among the plant with respect to the plants which are pollinated by water. First of all, there are small proportion of plants which are being pollinated by abiotic agent compared to the plants which are pollinated by biotic agent. Biotic agent, animals are involved more in a number of plants in their pollination. Okay, so pollination of flowers by wind or by air is known as anemophily. It is quite common, let's say, in grass family, that is Poaceae. Grass family. Poaceae or Gramineae, what we call old name Gramineae. And you know that all gymnosperms are anemophilous. Gymnosperms are anemophilous, wind pollinated. So what are the characteristics of anemophilous flowers or wind pollinated flowers or plants, whatever it is? The flowers are small, usually dull or green. The flowers are small or dull, dull or green. These flowers are clustered together. The flowers are clustered, compactly arranged, clustered together to form an inflorescence. The flowers, when small sized flowers are there which are dull, okay, usually green, these all small sized flowers are clustered, compactly arranged to form inflorescence. The inflorescence which we see, spike catkin inflorescence. In cereals, you have spikelet inflorescence. It a kind of spike inflorescence only, spikelet inflorescence you can find. So, when comparatively flowers are large, individual flowers will be there. When small sized flowers are there, they get clustered, they get compactly arranged to form the inflorescence. Flowers are well exposed. Flowers are well exposed. These flowers are born on the plant on the aerial, what you call, parts, well above the ground level. If the flowers are produced at the ground level, then the wind may not touch the ground always. So the flowers are born well above in the aerial parts. Okay, in the aerial branches the flowers can be born and can be easily exposed to the wind. So flowers are well exposed to air. Flowers are well exposed to the air. Flowers are born on the aerial branches of the plant and they are well exposed to the air. Stamens well exposed. Stamens are well exposed. They have versatile anther. Stamens are well exposed. These stamen and stigma, they come what you call above the level of the flower. They are not hidden within the flower. If it is a flower, the stamen and stigma, they are well exposed to the air, so that the wind can carry away the pollen grains to the stigma. Suppose if they are inserted means within the corolla, exerted out of the corolla. So the stamen and the stigma, okay, the stamen and gynoecium are exerted means coming above the flower level, okay, so that they can be easily exposed to the what you call air. And here the stamen are having versatile anther. This is versatile anther. So here the filament is attached to the middle of the anther, and this anther lobe can swing freely in the air. It can swing freely in the air, so that anther, when it matures, it dehisces and releases large number of pollen grain due to the swinging of the anther. So versatile anther will be there. So this large number of pollen grains are produced by the anther. Large number of pollen grains are produced. Pollen grains are produced. Large number of pollen grains are produced. See, wind pollination, water pollination, pollen grain reaching the stigma of a specific flower, it is a chance factor I told. Large number of the pollen grains will be wasted here. So that's why large number of pollen grains are produced. Take for example in cannabis, in the plant cannabis, a single flower can produce 5 lakh pollen grains. In case of cannabis, okay, a single flower can produce 5 lakh pollen grain. Similarly, in maize, the male inflorescence is known as tassel. The male inflorescence is known as tassel. Okay, so this is going to release 25 million pollen grains. See how many number of pollen grains are produced. So in maize, male inflorescence called as tassel is going to release 25 million pollen grain. The single flower in case of cannabis is going to produce 5 lakh pollen grain. Like that, large number of the pollen grains are produced and released from the anther. Pollen grains are smaller in size. They are lighter in weight. As they are lighter in weight, they can be easily carried by the wind. If they are heavier, difficult to carry the pollen grain by the wind. Okay, so they are small, lighter in weight, dry, smooth, and non-sticky. Pollen grains are non-sticky. If pollen grains are attached with each other, cluster pollen grain, it becomes heavier, difficult to carry it away by the wind. So they are non-sticky. In some example, like pinus, winged pollen grain can be produced. This is the winged pollen grain in case of pine, gymnosperm, coniferous tree. Winged pollen grain can be produced. Whatever it is, the pollen grains are produced in large number. They are lighter in weight, dry, powdery type. They are smooth. They do not stick with each other, attach with each other. So non-sticky. As a result, very easily when the flower is exposed to the wind or air, then this wind or air can carry these pollen grains easily. Stigma is large, lobed and feathery. Like this, stigma, large, lobed, like this. Depression can be there and feathery, so that it can catch the pollen grain when these pollen grains are carried by the wind or air. In some cases, the stigma can be sticky also. In some cases, stigma can be sticky. If it is sticky, pollen grains can firmly attach to the stigma. Suppose if it is dry, what happens pollen grain? When it reaches the stigma, once again, due to that wind or air, it can be blown away from the stigma. So, stigma can be sticky so that pollen grain can attach onto the stigma. These flowers, Anemophilous flowers, they have single ovule usually in the ovary. So Anemophilous flowers usually have single ovule in the locule of the ovary. So these are the characteristics of what you call wind pollinated flowers. See, the wind pollinated flowers do not emit scent, smell, aroma, odor. They do not emit because it is a non-living agent. Wind is a non-living agent, abiotic agent. Okay, it cannot differentiate whether the flower is colored. Okay, flower emits smell, flower produce nectar. It cannot differentiate that. Okay, so flowers do not emit scent or aroma, and they do not produce nectar. They do not produce nectar. Nectar is sweet sugary fluid produced by nectary gland. Nectary gland is there on the flower, particularly when gamopetalous corolla will be there. On the gamopetalous corolla, such nectary glands can produce nectar. So insects and other what you call living agents can visit the flower to get it. But here it is abiotic agent, wind. So wind cannot differentiate these characters of the flower. So flowers usually do not emit a scent or aroma, and flowers they do not produce what we call nectar. So these are all characters of what we call wind pollinated flowers or Anemophilous flowers. The best example for wind pollinated plant is maize. examples of wind pollinated plants. Cereals, wheat, maize, etc. Grass, coconut, date palm, pines, oak, papaya. These are all the different examples which are pollinated by wind. So one example we have maize. Even you have sugarcane. These are all different plants pollinated by wind. Maize is monoecious plant. Maize is monoecious plant means this plant bear unisexual flowers. Male flower and female flowers born on the same plant. Unisexual male and female flowers born on the same plant on different what you call parts. So here, if you take maize, this is male inflorescence called as a tassel. It bears male flower. This is female inflorescence. Okay, cob with silky hairs. You have seen golden yellow long silky hairs will be there. That is style and its tip is stigma. Style and stigma, those long silky hairs. So this tassel is going to release, the male flower is going to release a large number of pollen grains. I told a tassel can release up to 25 million pollen grains on maturity. So when the pollen grains are released here, okay, which are small and lightweight, these can fall on the stigma. This is female inflorescence, cob with silky hairs. Okay, so it is a monoecious plant, presence of unisexual male and unisexual female flower on the same plant. Okay, it is a good example of wind pollination and it is a good example of geitonogamy. It is a very good example of geitonogamy, remember. Why it is an example of geitonogamy? I told the transfer of pollen grain from anther to the stigma of another flower born on the same plant. That's why it is an example of geitonogamy. The transfer of pollen grain from anther to the stigma of another flower born on the same plant. So it is a good example of geitonogamy and it is also an example, good example of wind pollination. So These are all the characteristics and examples of wind pollinated plants. So remember, 4 characteristics you have to remember, very, very important. This female inflorescence, we refer it as ear with silky hair. This also we can call it ear with silky hairs. Usually we call it as cob. This cob can become thin, after pollination and fertilization. Next, now we have hydrophilic or pollination mediated by water. So, what is hydrophily? Pollination of flowers by water. Hydros means water. Philos means loving. So that is the Greek term from which it is derived. So pollination of flowers by water is known as hydrophilia. So hydrophily is seen in limited number of aquatic plants. It is not seen in more number of plants. It is restricted to limited number of aquatic plants. Few aquatic plants. So here around 30 genera So hydrophily is limited to few flowering plants or aquatic plants. Okay, that is mainly 30 genera. Many of them are monocots. So few flowering plants can perform hydrophily. Around 30 genera of aquatic plant or flowering plants, okay, mainly which live in water, okay, aquatic plant, flowering plants. Out of that, many of them are monocots which exhibit this hydrophilic. We have learnt about algae, bryophytes, and pteridophytes. We have learnt these plants. What we came to know here, there is a need of water. There is need of water for motility of male gamete. Okay, the medium, water medium is required for the movement, for the locomotion of the male gamete to reach egg and effect fertilization process. So in case of lower plant like algae, then we have bryophytes and pteridophytes. There is a need of external medium, that is water, for the movement of the male gamete, which are motile structures. Okay, with the help of water, they can swim and they can reach the egg, the female gamete, and then what happens? Fertilization can occur. So, particularly in bryophytes and pterophytes, they are having a limited distribution. They are having limited distribution. That is because water is required, external medium water is required for sexual reproduction. Bryophytes and pterophytes comparatively, they have limited geographical distribution. Okay, that is because water is required for sexual reproduction. Means water medium is required for the locomotion, for the movement of male gamete to reach the egg and resulting into fertilization process. That's why they have limited distribution all over the world. What are the characters of the hydrophilous flower? That is, flowers which are pollinated by what you call water. Pollen grains are produced in large number. Flowers are not attractive, means not brightly colored. Usually they are not brightly colored because flowers are not attracted by a abiotic agent like water. Water is a non-living agent, abiotic agent. It cannot distinguish the living character. So the flowers which are produced here are not much attractive, not brightly colored here. Okay, and they do not produce. Usually they do not produce scent, nectar. Usually they do not produce scent, nectar. Pollen grains are prevented from wetting. Pollen grains are prevented from wetting. See, as these pollen grains have to passively float along with water current. Along with water current, they passively float. If the pollen grain become wet, they become heavier. They can sink in the water, sink inside the water, may not reach the stigma. So, pollen grains are prevented from wetting due to mucilaginous coating. Due to mucilaginous coating. Due to this mucilaginous coating, wax-like coating, it prevents wetting of pollen grains. Pollen grains are light. They are light. Their density is less. That is why they can float either on the surface of the water or inside the water. Pollen grains are light. they are less denser. That is why they are able to float on the surface of the water or inside the water. Stigma is sticky. Stigma is usually sticky so that it can hold on those pollen grains. So pollen grains, see here, are lighter in weight, less denser. Stigma is sticky usually. Unisexual flowers are produced on different branches. Unisexual flowers are produced on different branches or on different plants. Okay, so when they are produced on different branches, the plant can be monoecious. The plant can be monoecious. When the unisexual flowers are born on different plant, it can be dioecious. Male and female plants can be separately distinguished. Okay. So these are what we call some of the characteristics of what we call hydrophilous flowers or flowers pollinated by water. Now, where does the pollination occur in water? Where does the pollination occur in water? Whether the pollination occur on the surface of the water or the pollination occur deep inside the water. Based on that, we have mainly two types of pollination. One is epihydrophilic and another one hypohydrophilic. Two types of what we call hydrophily we have. So one is epihydrophily and another one hypohydrophily. This is the water body. This is the surface of water. Epihydrophily means pollination of flowers on the surface of water. Pollination of flowers on the surface of water. So pollination of flowers on the surface, upper surface of the water, that we call it as epihydrophily. Examples for epihydrophily, which are the examples you have? Vallisneria, lamina. These are the example for epihydrophily. So we have to learn special kind of what we call mechanism is involved in this Vallisneria, It is a submerged plant. Vallisneria is a submerged plant. It is found inside the water, but pollination occurs on the surface of the water. Hypohydrophily means pollination of flower inside the water, deep inside the water. Pollination of flowers deep inside the water, not easily visible. When the submerged plants are there inside the water, when pollination occurs inside the water, then it is called as hypohydrophily. Example for hypohydrophily are Zostera, Najas and Ceratophyllum. These are the example for hypohydrophily. Remember, all aquatic plants are not pollinated by water. All aquatic plants are not pollinated by water. There are many aquatic plants. There are many aquatic plants which can be pollinated by either insects or wind. Which are these plants? All that I will continue tomorrow.